Live. Yes, I can see that we're live. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the College of Vedic Studies, Birmingham branch. This is the Bhakti Lens, getting to the heart of the matter. We've got a special guest for you all today. His name is Chaturatmas. He joined the International Society for Krishna Consciousness in St. Louis, Missouri in 1973 and received Brahminical initiation from Srila Prabhupada in June of 1974. And he has a wealth of experience within the Anga of Bhakti called Archanam, or deity worship, having served various murtis within the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And now he advises many devotees in this esoteric art. He's well known for his knowledge also in yagyas and some skar ceremonies, and has a great interest in the lives of the previous Vaishnav acharyas also. And what's interesting is that he currently travels a portion of each year with Indradyumna Swami and Badahari Prabhu, assisting them in spreading Bhakti, the Bhakti tradition in Poland, Russia, Ukraine, and India. He's married with children and grandchildren and resides in Alachua, Florida. And we are very happy to have him with us. Prabhu, I'm going to welcome you. Thank you, Chaturatma Prabhu. Welcome, and how are you? How are you doing?
Thank you very much. Glad to be with all of you today. It's always a real pleasure to share Krishna consciousness. You know, this is what Prabhupada wanted us to do. As Prabhupada told us, he said, "I have made your good fortune. Now it's up to you to make others." So the opportunity to speak with others about the practice of bhakti, about the practice of Krishna consciousness, and share how we can incorporate that into our regular daily lives is really an essential part of being a disciple, a follower of Srila Prabhupada.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, we've got a beautiful picture actually. Behind the scenes, we've got Mayapur Madhav, who's going to throw up some pictures also. But last week we had a nice discussion with our students on the College of Vedic Studies, and then majority Indian, or even we could say Hindu background. And we shared with them this idea that the people of India are very close to Bhakti or even Krishna, but they're facing away sometimes from Krishna. Whereas there are some people who are not from India who are maybe far removed from Bhakti, the Bhakti traditions and Krishna, but they're facing Krishna and moving towards Krishna. So we had a very interesting discussion about that. And so I wanted to pick up on that. And you know what it was like. I'm sure you've shared this story or these ideas many times, but just for our listeners, just for our audience that we have on College of Vedic Studies, what was the atmosphere or the environment of the 60s and 70s, or even before that, like that kind of made you look towards Bhakti?
Well, you know, it was no small circumstance that Srila Prabhupada came to America when he did, because the American culture, as we all know, historically was in upheaval, was in a transformation. The beatnik generation of the 50s, which had just been completely disregarded, had now become the hippie movement of the 60s. And they were a very prominent force and impact in American culture. And it was quite a shock for mainstream America, because these were people that had realized that the materialistic way of life did not hold any real value. Unfortunately, they had no positive alternative. And the slogan at the time, as we all know, was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And none of those three are going to give you bhakti or get you free from the circle of birth and death. So into this movement of alternative inquiry entered Srila Prabhupada. Now, it's safe to say that there was a spiritual underpinning in many of the individuals at that time. And
Oh, looks like we've lost Prabhu. Maybe his internet connection has gone. That was about to be an enthralling story there. Let me just message him. Mayapur, are you there? Sorry, guys. I'll sing a song, but you probably all come offline. I'll just wait for my board to. Oh, let's have a look.
Okay, we're back. My apologies. I pretend to be a real tech savvy guy, but all I got to do is accidentally push the wrong button and it's all over. I was just watching a news article on CNN about the snafus of the pandemic live broadcasts, and this would have been one of them. You know, yeah. Cats walking across the table, or kids coming in from the back room, or so-called hosts that know what they're doing, pushing buttons. And my apologies to all your listeners.
Oh, no, it's fine.
But to pick back up where we were, so there was a genuine mood of spiritual inquiry, but no real understanding of where to go with it. I remember before coming to Krishna consciousness, I had a friend that had a band. And I used to go and listen to them rehearse from time to time. And this was in 1972. I joined in 73. Mm-hmm. And I remember him saying to me after rehearsal one night, hey, if you stick around and learn how to pack everything up, you can be our roadie and go on tour with us. To which I looked at him and said, thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to India and find a guru. That was my mood. And by this point, I had already been remotely introduced to Krishna consciousness because I lived in a commune. And in that commune, there were 11 members. 9 of those members became devotees. 7 of them still are. And 5 of them are associated here with the Alachua Temple.
Wow.
So, you know, it was like a pressure cooker there, you know, for us to get to the point where, okay, I've had it with material life. Boom, time to go.
So this commune was centered on Bhakti, or it was like a yoga
No, not at all. We were a macrobiotic, organic, farming kind of commune, you know, that stuff.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's good.
But
you're escaping from.
Exactly. Right. But in that commune, we had an altar of the Chaturatma, and we had a Tulsi plant.
Wow.
So that's why so many of the members became devotees. So that whole mood of searching and coming in contact with Prabhupada. Now, this was in 1972, and this was the height of Prabhupada's preaching in America. He was making devotees like anything, and he was vibrant and healthy and touring all over the world. And, you know, it was just happening. ISKCON was moving forward. And young people in my age group, 18, 19, 20, 21, we were all searching for some spiritual aspiration with no real understanding what it was. And in this picture came Prabhupada. And Prabhupada gave it to us. Here's Bhakti. Here's all you have to do is chant Hare Krishna and put Krishna in the center of your life. And it was that simple. Now, back then, practically none of us, maybe 1%, were married with families and kids. So we were just single kids and just dropped the world and moved into the ashram, became brahmacharis and brahmacharinis, you know? Traveled all over.
Signing up for like a Bhakti army or something.
Exactly. The Bhakti army. That's exactly. We were Prabhupada's army. Exactly. And that went on like that, very, solid till well into the late 70s, beginning of the 80s. And then the household ashram began to manifest in a very broad and encompassing way. And the whole brahmachari movement of the 70s was done. Right,
yeah. So it was mainly because of your age that you moved into ashrams like that, and the stage of life that you're in, would you say?
Exactly, because it's like when you're a college student, you can just, leave home and go move into the dormitory, and life is simple. So this was basically what we did. We all just left whatever it was we were doing. And in most cases, none of us were doing anything significant. Not like many of the devotees left substantial careers or, powerful positions in the business world or anything. We were all just kids. So it was very easy to make that transition. And as a result, it was very easy to assist Prabhupada in spreading Bhakti and spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. And that's exactly what happened, as you know.
Yeah, Maipur, if you're backstage, can you throw up that picture of, it's an amazing photo. I absolutely love this photo. It's Srila Prabhupada and all the devotees around, and then there you go.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was probably 22 years old there.
wow.
That's in Detroit in 1976.
Wow.
Prabhupada had come to Detroit. This is the first time he had visited the Detroit temple. And I was a young brahmachari, and we were there for the whole thing. And I got a fair amount of service at that time. I had understood that I was not significant enough to get Prabhupada's immediate association. But if I was the servant of his secretary and his servant, who at the time was Harisari and Pusta Krishna, then I could get access. So I would get their meals and do their laundry and give them massages. And that got me access to so-called Prabhupada's inner circle. And I got to sit in on several room conversations and get Mahaprasadam from Prabhupada and things of that nature, and be close enough to dare to be right by Prabhupada in this circumstance.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. It's
It was one of those, just to jump in, it was one of those lessons I learned early, that service to these senior devotees is the secret to advancement in devotional service.
Why is that? Why do you think that is?
Well, because of two things. First of all, personally and individually, it takes a certain sense of humility to serve others. You know, and the very successful people of this world, whether it's in the business world or whether it's in the medical field or in the academic field, those that are very successful have a humble demeanor and are very willing to do service for others. Because that type of humility goes hand in hand with success. Now, it's true, you have arrogant people. Just look at our past president here in America that are successful, you know, and can be incredibly arrogant. But to be respected and to make that type of headway, humility, and we all know that in the 26 qualities of a devotee given to us in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, humility is right up there at the top. Secondly, by serving those who are senior, one sets themselves up to get their blessings, to get their mercy, to get their compassion, their education, their knowledge. They share with you. They want to bring you in. And that adds to your moving further up the path of devotional life.
Yeah, someone was sharing with me that in the Mahabharata, there's a blessing that they say, Vijay Vinay Bhava. So it's like, be victorious, Vijay, but Vinay, also have humility. May you have victory and humility. Because like you said, if you become victorious without the humility, then that might ruin you, right?
Exactly. And we see who is the most famous of personalities. That's Krishna. And what did Krishna do at the Rajasuya? He washed the feet of all the guests. So how much more humility is there than that? That we can say, oh, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't submit myself to anyone else. And this is the binding factor, if you will, of material life, to think that I am too good to submit myself to anyone else. They should all submit themselves to me.
Yeah, see, this is what I'm very amazed about, is the level of submission that your generation had to Srila Prabhupada. I'm just thinking of my own ego. And if I had met Srila Prabhupada, let's say, I mean, this is another beautiful photo. I just question myself, would I have submitted to Srila Prabhupada, or would I have just thought, who is this with all these followers? So how did that process of submission come about to Srila Prabhupada? Like, was it?
Because we had nothing, and Prabhupada gave us everything. I mean, myself personally, I was at a point where I was practically homeless. The commune I had been living in had fallen apart. I was literally begging on the streets to get spare change to buy my next meal. I had no, substantial direction as far as finances or business or income or any of that thing. And surrendering to Prabhupada gave me all of that. A place to stay, people to associate with, a goal and a direction in my life that would benefit me, knowledge that was beyond anything I could comprehend on my own. So naturally, it brought about a mood of submission to the person that gave you all that. Now, add that to the Indian culture, if you use that phrase, to the Hindu culture of submitting to a guru, and you've got the perfect storm.
Wow. So your love for Archanam or deity worship, Murti Seva, was that something early on, or was it something
Right off the bat. I moved into a temple where we didn't have installed deities proper. We had a big painting of the Chaturatma. And when one got their Brahminical initiation, they were allowed to go on the altar and clean that painting.
Wow.
So there was a certain mood of service to the deity, in this case, even though it was a painting, that was incorporated in me from early on. But then within a year, we installed beautiful small deities. How do they do like this? Yeah. Of Gornitai that became very famous throughout all of America.
Okay.
And I was able to assist in that installation and then become one of their first pujaris, and spent the following years, 5 years, serving them. And so it became very, very much a part of my daily routine, my daily devotional practice.
Could you expand on the idea of, you just used the word installation, like the idea of pran pratishtha, like explain to our viewers what, like we could just have a murti of Krishna and yes, that's beautiful, but the difference between actually establishing a deity, installing a deity, pran pratishtha, could you just expand on that idea?
Generally in the temple, the proper connection with the deity is through the fact that there is a bona fide, as you said, pran pratishtha, installation ceremony, inviting the Lord into that form. This is not something that is exclusive to ISKCON or to just Prabhupada coming. This has been the history of deity worship for the thousands of years. Everyone listening knows this. Many of the deities in India have been there for 1,000, 2,000 years. The Rangaji deity in South India, they can trace the worship going back 1,500 years minimum. Lord Jagannath in Puri, that can be traced back even further. So this process of bringing the Lord into that particular form to accept the worship is a very detailed process and makes a connection. It's just like this link we've got going here. Someone may have their microphone on mute so they can see what's going on, but they're not fully getting the benefit of the conversation and going and getting involved. But when they're fully connected in the proper way through the link you provided, then they get the full benefit. So in the same way, the process of pran pratishtha is the authorized link given in scripture of how to directly connect with that deity form for the purpose of developing love in the heart.
Wow. So this is why then, say when pran pratishtha has been done, say within the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, those specific murtis that Srila Prabhupada had, we say, installed, they hold a certain significance, and that's why then all the other deities of the Goswamis hold a certain significance. Is that?
Yes, yes. This is one of the activities of the Acharya, not only to spread the message, not only to initiate disciples and bring them into the fold, so to speak, but to establish deity worship. The 6 Goswamis you mentioned, each of them had their deities they established in this way. When Narottam left Narottam Das Thakur, one of our acharyas who appeared just after Mahaprabhu, when he returned to his hometown of Ketari, he was instructed by his spiritual master that you should set up deity worship for the people to be able to take part in this process. So in the same way, Srila Prabhupada, once we became mature enough and he could count on us to follow some standards, which prior to this, we had no clue what they were, right? Therefore, he established these deities. And the deities that were directly established by Prabhupada during his time, they're very, very special. You know, this is like the Goswamis installing, you know, their individual deities, that connection to that particular Goswami, Radha Govinda to Rupa Goswami, or Madan Mohan to Sanatan Goswami, Radha Damodar to Jiva Goswami. It's a very special connection. And in the same way, these deities that Prabhupada installed for the purpose of spreading Krishna consciousness beyond India, all over the world, have a very special connection there. And to be able to serve them, very special, very wonderful.
So our students have started to chant on beads. They're just getting used to it, maybe 1 or 2, maybe 4 rounds a day. How would you advise them to start puja, like archanam, deity worship? What would you say they should? How should they start?
The first thing is simplicity. There's a wonderful class by Srila Prabhupada in which he's talking about the deity worship. And he says the worship of the deity should be Sri Vigraha, the worship of the form. He said, not Kalagraha. That means a pain in the neck. He says, oh, Guru Maharaj has given us such a pain in the neck to take care of. If our mentality is, oh, God, I got to get up and I got to do the deeds and I got to go to work and it's just too much, that's not going to develop love in the heart. Love in the heart comes when we do that service that we're capable of. Now, in our household life, that means according to time and circumstance.
Okay.
Sanatan Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, in a famous book he wrote, Hari Bhakti Vilas, he explains that there's 2 types of deity worship. One is that deity worship which is done in the temple. This is very, very strict according to rules and regulations, and there's actually a sinful reaction if one deviates from that standard. But the other, he says, is the deity worship in the household. He uses the word in the mood of convenience. This doesn't mean frivolity or carelessness, but convenient. Suppose you have a program later at night than normal, and there's an offering to be made to the deities. They don't usually eat at that time. So you make an offering. And friends stay, and there's some kirtan and some katha going. So the deity stays up a little later. That's out of the ordinary, but in the mood of convenience. Suppose there is a baby born into the family, and the worship isn't able to be done as strictly first thing in the morning. It gets done midday. That's in the mood of convenience. These types of adjustments, 64 articles or 5 articles, you know, all of these types of things, this is there in the household worship. So I always encourage devotees when they ask me about how they should start worship in their home, start simple. You can always add to it, but it's never good to take away.
So when you say simple, you mean with regards to timing, paraphernalia? What?
Yes, the particular form, Gaurnitai is always good to start with. Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda very mercifully want everyone to worship them. They didn't say to Jagai and Madhai, oh, wait a minute, no, you're not doing the proper achman, you can't come before me.
Yeah.
So they're there for everyone. And how do we worship them? Well, ultimately, Prabhupada says you can worship the Lord just with water and tulsi. But if we have in the home, so we're cooking something, if we're trying to be a Vaishnava, we don't eat food that isn't blessed, isn't offered. So we offer that to the deity, whatever we cook. My wife is an absolutely amazing cook, one of the best cooks in ISKCON. I say this with no hint of favoritism. And everything we cook gets offered to the deity. This is the standard. This is the way we trained our children. Everything that's brought into the home, this is the way Bhaktivinoda trained Bhakti Siddhanta. You know, there's that famous story. For those not aware, Bhaktivinoda is our great, great, great spiritual grandfather. And Bhakti Siddhanta would be our great spiritual grandfather. So Bhakti Siddhanta was a young child. Bhaktivinoda brought mangoes into the home. And Bhakti Siddhanta took one and thought, oh, these look very nice. And Bhaktivinoda corrected him. He said, no, first it's come into the home. It must be offered to the deity first. This is not the proper attitude. Now, of course, Bhakti Siddhanta, being a young child, but being a very special individual appearing in this world, took a vow at the age of 5 years old. He would never eat mango the rest of his life because he committed an offense to the deity.
Wow.
So now this is very, very unusual standard, but the principle is what we take from that. Now, this is an important point. We have to learn in our application of bhakti to our daily life to embrace the principle, not necessarily the circumstances. We may not be able to go to Mangalarti at the temple every single morning, but we can have morning worship in our home. We may not be able to go out on book distribution every single day, but we can share Krishna with those we come in contact with. We may not be able to offer 64 Raj Bhog offerings to the Lord, but whatever we do cook in the home, we offer that. So this is the important thing. To advance in Krishna consciousness doesn't mean to make our life so difficult that everything just becomes, just a burden to follow. No, it means to embrace those things which we can bring into the home in their essential form and begin to watch our bhakti grow from that process.
So if you, like you gave that really nice contrast between Vigraha, Krishna, and we're in love with Krishna. But if we start getting this feeling of, my puja and my bhakti or whatever I'm doing, if is feeling like a weight around the neck, is that like a litmus test to make us recheck some sort of like have a look again at our mood, or what should people do when they start feeling it more as a burden rather than I'm into this, like I'm feeling it? What should we do?
Very good point. Very good point. When we begin to feel that the process of chanting my rounds or the process of following the regulative principles or the process of having the deity worshipped in my home is now become a pain, then yes, we have to examine ourselves. What am I doing in my spiritual life that is bringing out these impurities? Because we should understand them for what they are. If we have a serious interest to advance on the path of bhakti, to incorporate the devotional principles in our life, when we begin to feel our consciousness becoming adverse to that, as you said, litmus test. Okay, what am I doing that's bringing that about? Well, maybe the fact that I'm meeting the guys at the pub after work once a week might have something to do with that.
Yeah.
Maybe the fact that I'm stopping by the fast food place and not so particular about what I might be eating there has something to do with that. We have to examine these things, Maybe the fact that I stayed up till midnight watching the telly and therefore I can't get up and do anything in the morning has something to do with that.
So it might be a certain WhatsApp group. It might be in a certain WhatsApp group that is too distracting these days.
Exactly. Maybe the fact I was on Facebook till 3 a.m. might be why I can't get
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. When we see those hesitations to embrace the principles given by Srila Prabhupada manifest in our consciousness, we should consult with our partner. We should consult with our close associates. This is one of the principles that Rupa Goswami talks about: love between devotees, being able to share one's mind and inquire confidentially. So we go to that, wife or husband in our life, and, I'm feeling like this. What do you suggest? You live with me. You see what I'm doing. What do you think the cause is? Or to that best friend, Prabhu, you've always advised me straight. Here's the problem I'm having. What do you think I should be doing? This is the importance of sadhu sangha. Prabhupada famously said that if we think that we can become Krishna consciousness on our own, we're living in a hallucination. Association is mandatory. Now, what does that mean to live in a hallucination? Well, I lived in the 60s. I can tell you firsthand. It means to see something and assume that it's real when it has no basis in reality. So in America, the classic example of the alcoholic is that he sees pink elephants. He becomes so intoxicated, he sees pink elephants. Well, of course, we know there's no such thing as pink elephants.
Yeah.
So this indicates that he's seeing things that don't exist due to the intoxication. So it's an intoxicating quality to think that on my own, with no association, I'll become Krishna conscious. And in today's modern world, association is so easy, just like we're doing here. You're in one side of the globe and I'm on the other.
Yeah.
And I was telling you earlier, I had a class with the devotees in Brazil last week. We can go on YouTube, and the amount of devotional programming there is just unlimited. So even if we live in a city by ourselves and there's no other devotees around, the opportunity for association is always there. And without that association, without contacting Prabhupada through reading his books, without contacting the holy name and softening our heart, without getting the association of personal relationships with devotees, we cannot advance. It's as simple as that.
Tell me more about that process of softening the heart. You said something beautiful there. You said, without chanting the holy names and softening the heart. So tell me why did you use that?
There's that classic example that Srila Prabhupada gave us that any of us that have spoken to others coming to the devotional path have used, and that is the mirror. When I get the opportunity to go to the Woodstock Festival in Poland, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of 900,000 to 1 million kids, and I sit in the question and answer booth for 6 hours a day, one of the examples I always give them is this, that, if you go to my grandmother, she used to have all this stuff in the attic, and you go to her house and there's that mirror up there in the attic, and you look in it, but the picture's all distorted because it's got layers of dust on it from sitting up there. So you get a rag out of the box, a little bit of water, you make an effort to clean it up, and you get that crystal clear reflection. The heart is the same way. From having been in this material world for so many births, from having taken our birth here through 8,400,000 different species of life, different types of experiences, different types of karma, different types of reactions, we're not clearly perceiving the nature of the soul. By the chanting of the holy name, by the contact of the holy name with kirtan, by the reading of Shastra, these things, they all clear that dirt, all that karma, all of that reaction from the heart and allow us to see the pure spiritual being. And this is the process that Prabhupada gave us. And that process, as the Chaitanya Charitamrita says, softens even the most iron-like heart. We may have so many anarthas or so many bad desires, and these make the heart not very suitable for loving exchanges. But if by the process of devotional service, we can soften that heart and open it up to the loving exchanges with other devotees, then we'll find that our path and advancement comes so much easier.
Beautiful. That's good. So anyone listening, it's the heart softening process. That's what Bhakti is, love and devotion, softening the heart. Yeah. I wanted to move the discussion on a little bit about your love for the holy places, the pilgrim spots. So if you could just So here's a picture of yourself. Yeah. So tell me. Tell me about your love for like the holy Dham, and I know you have a particular love for Govardhan Giriraj, we say. So yeah, please share how it came about.
As I mentioned earlier on, I was headed to India at a younger age. I was about 20, 21, and I had a goal in mind to go to India and find a guru. I knew that this was what was necessary for the direction of my life. And then eventually, of course, I came in contact with Srila Prabhupada and realized I didn't have to go to India, that the guru was here. But then Prabhupada, of course, encouraged us all to go to India, to the different holy places, particularly to Vrindavan and Mayapur. So my first trip was in 1974. And this was when I went to Mayapur. Now, this is back when Mayapur was just one little force.
Early.
Yeah. There was nothing compared to what's there now.
Yeah.
And the conditions were ripe for tests as to how strong your faith was.
Yeah.
But when I was in Vrindavan, I just felt completely comfortable and at home. And then in 1977, I went there with the idea of immersing myself in Vrindavan. And I spent a couple of months there, and I would get up in the morning, go to the Mangal Aarti, and then after that, I would chant my japa walking around through the town of Vrindavan and visiting the different temples. And then come back in time for the breakfast. And then I would do my noon service to the temple like that. So I had a full program. And I just felt so comfortable there. And so at home. And then one of my friends who's now passed away, Kormarupa Prabhu, who runs the who ran the Care for Cows program for cows. Yeah. He would take me out to Govardhan, and it would just be so wonderful. I was just like, oh, this is it. Now I'll tell you a little inside story. There's a hiking range. I grew up in the Boy Scouts, and every month, sometimes twice a month, we'd go out and hike and camp and do hiking trails of 20 miles, 25 miles, whatever it was, over the course of 2 days like that. And I love doing all that. So I've always had in my mind, there's a thing in America called the Appalachian Trail, which starts in the south of America and goes 3,000 miles to the north.
Wow.
And it's a thing that people take 6 months off of their life and go hike the Appalachian Trail.
Okay.
And I always had this strong desire. I wanted to hike the Appalachian Trail. Then one year, I got to go to Vrindavan. I got to go to Govardhan. And in the association of someone your listeners probably know quite well, Madhava, I did Dandavat Parikram of the entire 14 miles of Govardhan Hill.
Wow.
And after I completed that, my desire for doing, the Appalachian Trail just completely dissipated.
Let me just explain to our listeners what Dandavat Parikram is. It's like you could walk around, circumambulate Govardhan Hill, or you could bow down fully, lying down, and then where your hands get to, that's where your feet go, and then you lie down again. So that's called
one body length.
It's a whole body length, yeah. And you're basically doing that around this sacred mountain, the sacred hill, and the distance is how far?
14 miles, or I think in your terminology, it'd be like, 21 kilometers?
Yeah. So how long would that take?
It depends on how much you do it each day. We would be there at the hill by 4 o'clock, and then at 4 in the morning. And then we would go till 10. So, that took us 7 days.
Wow. Mayapur, we got any more pictures of Chaturatma Prabhu and Madha Prabhu? We're very close to Madha Prabhu, who you just mentioned, because he's been supporting our Birmingham 24-hour Kirtan for the past 20 years. And I just nicked all of these pictures off your Facebook.
Well, I'm very fortunate that Madhava calls me his friend and brother. And we have a slogan because it was him, myself, Vrindavan Kirtan, and one other friend from Alachua, Jai Shri Krishna, that did this together. So we call ourselves the Brothers of the Dust.
Oh, that's good. That's nice. That's nice.
So, and this is another example of what I was saying earlier, the importance. Oh yeah, there's the three of us. I like to refer to this. I like to refer to this picture as my life is an Oreo cookie.
The sweetness on the inside, yeah.
Well, no, the white on the inside, the black on the outside.
That's a brilliant picture. I love that picture.
Yeah, I love that.
I bet you all started laughing really hard as soon as it got taken.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. We're like, okay, do the gangster face. All right, that's it.
That's it. That's brilliant. That's
now that picture was taken at Vrindakund, by the way.
Yeah.
Another wonderful place in Vrindavan. But this is the thing, is back to this point of having close association, close friendships in Krishna consciousness. You can never get too far away. And many of your listeners are ladies, and they may or may not be able to relate to this point, but amongst guys, nobody can put you in place like a buddy. You know, guys have a certain way of just cutting each other, but doing it in a completely loving way. But it's just so brutal. But it's done out of love and to keep you in place. So that's the advantage of friendships, you know, is that when you get out of the past, hey, whoa, what are you doing? Give you a slap upside the head. Okay.
They can help clean that mirror that you're talking about.
Exactly.
That's good. That's good. So we've got about 5 minutes left. I just wanted to, you haven't shared enough, and we'll have to get you on again to really share why you love Govardhan Hill. But I wanted to just share with our listeners what you're doing now when you travel part of the year. You mentioned Woodstock, and you mentioned someone called Indradumna Swami.
I've been very fortunate that Indradumna Swami and I have had a friendship for a large number of years. And about 10 years ago, he said, I want you to start traveling with me and, you know, going to these different places in Russia and sharing Krishna consciousness, Ukraine. We've been to Tibet, you know, as you mentioned, India, Japan, Australia. So getting this opportunity has been completely facilitated by him. On my own, I would have never had this chance. Again, serving our seniors, serving those who are more advanced than us, and then they're giving their mercy to us. So this opportunity to travel with him and Bhattacharya as well has been just such a boon for sharing Krishna consciousness and for developing my relationship with Bhattacharya and Indradumna Swami in a deep way as a friendship. And then add to that the Kartik parikrams, going to Vrindavan during the Kartik month at the end of the year, and every day going out to the different holy places of Vrindavan and speaking about these places and experiencing what's going on. This has really been a highlight for my devotional life. It's been an opportunity to share what Srila Prabhupada gave me. And as I said at the beginning, this is all Prabhupada asked of us. I'm giving it to you, now you give it to others. Sometimes that giving it to others is going out in the street and distributing books and the Harinam Kirtan. Sometimes that giving to others is the uncle, the father, passing it on to those who are his junior and giving them an experience in Krishna consciousness they might not have had otherwise.
How fertile are these places for the culture of bhakti? These places, like you said, Japan, Poland, Ukraine, Russia. How fertile is it?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. In Moscow, there's 5,000 devotees. In St. Petersburg, there's 3,000 devotees. These are both big cities in Russia, for those that don't know. When we do the Polish Woodstock, it takes 500 devotees all coming and volunteering their time. And there's people that come to the Krishna site and they never leave for the whole music festival. They forget about everything else. They're just there to eat halva and take part in the kirtan. So it's very, very fertile. And this opportunity to give Krishna consciousness in that circumstance is very enlivening. It's very fulfilling.
That's great. So we've reached time. That's been 45 minutes. It feels like it's
how's that possible? Seems like we just started 3 minutes ago.
It's like 5 minutes. But I just thought I'd ask you to close with any advice you might have. Our students are kind of hopefully falling in love with Bhakti. They're falling in love with the Bhagavad Gita, studying it, starting to chant some japa on some beads, having some ideas of doing some sort of puja at home. So in closing, have you got any advice, please, for these lovely students?
The advice I give, you've heard me say throughout the broadcast already, and it's the advice I always give devotees: keep Vaishnava Sangha, keep association. I've been married for 41 years, and every decision my wife and I made about where we were going to live, what we were going to do, was based upon the association we would or would not have with devotees. And even like there was a period where we lived in South Florida where there wasn't a temple anywhere close. It was 3 hours away. But we had a small community of devotees there, 5, 6 families. And we would daily meet and then weekly have a Sunday feast and invite people to come. So whatever you end up deciding to do in your life, whatever academic or business pursuit or family activity, if you keep Krishna in that combination, then you won't go wrong.
Wow. So there you go. You heard it. You heard it here, guys. Keep the Sangha alive. Keep the Vaishnav Sangha alive. Yeah, we hope that we can have you on again, Prabhu.
I'm at your service whenever you want. Just give me a holler.
Yeah, that's it. Our time zones work out actually, because it's evening here and it's middle of the day maybe for you there. So
so it works out late afternoon, so it works out perfectly.
Brilliant, brilliant. So
unlike the one when I'm doing in Kazakhstan, I have to be up at 6 in the morning for a class.
That's truly amazing. I wish you all the best with all of your spreading of Bhakti, helping people see, the world through the lens of Bhakti, through the eyes of love and devotion. So, I hope to one day join you on one of these festivals.
That would be wonderful.
Be one of those 500 devotees. I'll send my kids as well and my wife.
I would be remiss in my responsibilities if I didn't point out, if anybody wants to learn more about my travels or my series of lectures on the Vaishnava Acharyas, I have a website, of course.
Okay, good. Yeah, please.
Chaturatmas.com.
Say it again, just in case I spoke over you. Say it again.
Chaturatmas.com.
Brilliant. Yeah, please, everyone, feel free to check out Prabhu's website. On Facebook, you're on Facebook as well.
I'm on Facebook as well. Yeah.
Any questions, you can go towards there and be inspired by him. We're all inspired by him. So I'm just addressing all you listeners. Please do plug into College of Vedic Studies Birmingham for any of the courses. Bhagavad Gita, we started Dharma Explore just recently. And then we've got Bhagavatam Sangha happening, and then we've got Chaitanya Charitamrita with the Sangha starting as well. And Mayapur, can you just put on who we've got next time? Oh, sorry, yeah, okay. There's the
great.
The website.
There we go.
There you go. Well done. If you could share who we've got next time, Mayapur. There you go. So Monday, 22nd of March with Ravinol Chambers. He is a great guy. He's a close personal friend of mine. He traveled with Tribhuvanath Prabhu. A lot, Africa,
a legend in England.
A legend, yeah. We've got a very soft spot for Tribhuvanath Prabhu, and Ravinol Chewa's got an amazing documentary that he's done. It's about education of girls, and this road to Vrindavan is his documentary. We're going to be talking about that along with many other things. So please, anyone, join in and watch that. If you can't watch it live, then watch the recording. So Chaturatma Das, thank you so much. Thank you for your time and your patience with us. And
thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm always at your service.
Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Bol.
Jai. Hari Bol. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mayapur.